All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
You know, one of the first shows I did, I talked about this whose ox is gored effect, how the media will totally change their story using a source depending on whose ox is gored. So they'll go to some guy who they previously had hated. I don't know, say he had pretended to be a conservative. And they would attack this guy in the past, be like, follow me for a second. But this guy's terrible. Don't listen to this bullshit artist. He's the worst. And then the second that guy turns on President Trump, they go back to the guy, the same media outlets, and they'll be like, respected conservative voice. You see it all the time, the ox's gourd effect. You're seeing it now when it comes to what happened with this release yesterday and basically the internet just using all of the Epstein files that are out there, thankfully, and I'm elated that they are. You're seeing it now. The media totally changed the story now that significant Democrats are pulled into the orbit. Now, all of a sudden, the story's changed about accountability. Whether you love what's happened or hate what's happened with regard to exposure and transparency, you think it could have been better, could have been worse. I understand. I get it. However, President Trump signed the act that put all this stuff out there. And now the liberal media folks, all of a sudden the story's changed. Now all of a sudden they're not so much about accountability anymore. Their headlines are awfully weird about something that happened. I'm going to get to that. And also, I was right yesterday on the Guthrie case. I had said to you in the morning, reading the tea leaves, that this sheriff out there is not being very cooperative, folks. I'm really sorry. And someone's got to call it for what it is. And I'm going to do it. We have a $12 billion FBI in a lab for a reason. Use it. I'll play a clip from another excellent law enforcement commentator on Fox who had some commentary on this as well. I got a big show for you today. Obviously, a ton to talk about. Another one of those enormous news days. And it's not a Netflix show, folks. You don't just walk in there as the FBI. FBI, especially, we're taking over. It's not the way this works. Today's show brought to you by Chapter. Listen, you see how these government programs work. Unfortunately, being on the inside, you see there's so much waste and abuse and sometimes outright fraud, sometimes criminality with these programs. They're a lot more broken than you can even imagine. One of the most broken systems we highlight on the show all the time is Medicare. They just have not been good stewards of your money in the government. Most people think they're getting accurate information. Some Medicare agents might push Medicare Advantage plans because that's what their commissions are, not because they're actually best for you. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Check them out. Chapter, like a chapter in a book. Chapter doesn't work for big insurance, and they don't take marching orders from Washington. They're independent. They can help walk you through every option. Original Medicare, Supplement, Advantage, Part D. They'll tell you exactly what you gain and what you give up and what it really costs. One woman, Gill, said her Chapter advisor showed her options and she didn't even see on Medicare's own website. Doesn't that sound like a broken system to you? It does to me. If you want more clarity, here's what to do. Get ready. Dial pound 250 on your phone and say Medicare help. The average senior who connects with Chapter saves about $1,100 a year just by getting honest advice. Can't beat that. So if you're on Medicare or getting close, don't guess. Dial pound 250 and say Medicare help. Again, that's pound 250 and say Medicare help. Go to your phone, dial pound 250 and say Medicare help. Thank you, Chapter Gee. Nice. 2 weeks, we're getting in gear. We had we got the bell going. Everything's going smooth. Production team knocking it out of the park. First, before I get to the other, what I had opened up the show with, I just want to address this. There's a lot of confusion out there, and I want to hat tip Paula. Paula told me, Dan, I think you need to explain this to the audience. Having been a member of the NYPD and federal law enforcement twice, you are the best positioned person to explain this. There's a lot of questions out there like, why doesn't the FBI just come in there and take over? Ken, we're talking about the Guthrie case just briefly because you're going to get it wall to wall on cable news. And we have a lot of other things to discuss as well. Tragic case, I get it, but I've got a lot to get to. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, even when there is almost unquestionable federal jurisdiction, you still should have to be, because it's the right thing to do, have to be cooperative with local law enforcement. You don't have a choice. They're typically the first persons on the scene. I'll give you an example. Bank robbery, right? Federal charge. If there's a bank robbery, the FBI is typically not the first agency on the scene. It'll be police officers, sheriffs, tribal police officers, territorial police officers, local police officers, state police officers. You don't just come in like a bull in a china shop. I don't care how they did it in the past. They didn't do it when we were there, Cash and I. And the guys work pretty well. I mean, I'm not implying anything by that. You don't just come in and flash a badge like you see in the movies. You guys ever see this? These FBI shows, Special Agent Jones, get the F out of here. We're in charge. That's not the way this works, man. One, you got to show some respect for these local police officers, state police officers who do amazing job. They're the ones on the street putting their asses on the line every single day. You just walk in there and we're taking over. However, we made it a priority during our time there to, be over the top with our offering of help to local law enforcement. I did a field office visit down to the Miami field office. We brought in all the local sheriffs. My local sheriff was there. And I said, guys, there were about 25, 26 there. Ladies, I said, please, tell me how we can better serve you. Tell me. I want to hear it. And we had some great back and forth. But it's two ways, folks. It's a two-way street. The sheriff out there in Arizona, in Pima, is really not helping. You have an FBI lab that is the best in the world at this. That's what they do. You paid for it. It's your lab, folks. It's your FBI. You pay for it. This is a republic. It's not a monarchy. It's yours. Why would you not send potential material like the glove and elsewhere that could have material on it that would be usable to the best lab in the world? Why would you not do that? It doesn't make any sense. Here's Randy Sutton, a really great law enforcement commentator. I'm not sure if we've ever met. Again, I don't know, but he's done some great work on Fox addressing exactly this in this cut. I need you to see. Check this out.
How do you think this is working with the FBI and sheriff, the coordination, the leadership? How is it viewed inside from your contacts?
Now, that's a great question because this is something that's concerned me from the very beginning. Of course, following this case from the outset, beginning when the sheriff did give his press conferences, the way he gave these press conferences was startling. It was unprofessional. He seemed to be out of his depth, quite honestly. He gave information and he walked back information and he said this, he said that. Clearly under his leadership, the scene was not secured properly. We're now understanding that the FBI wasn't called in until several days later, that the scene itself was compromised. This is bad leadership.
You know, I get it. There's always the cliched Monday morning quarterbacking, all of us. Listen, it happened to me, fair enough. But we all have the right to speak out. I'm not telling you every decision I made was absolutely peerless. I told you I had no regrets on my first show. Why? Not because I didn't make mistakes, but because I learned from them. And I wouldn't be a better person if I didn't make mistakes and learn from them. Therefore, I wouldn't change them because I didn't make the mistake again. But I think we have to be honest here. It's time for some cooperation. Obviously, the case has not gone swimmingly because of this lack of coordination, because we still haven't found the person. Maybe it's time to just put egos aside and do the right thing. By the way, Randy Sutton, I don't know, but he was not an FBI agent. He's got no dog in the fight. He's not there to protect the reputation of the FBI. If we screw up, we screw up. No time for games, man. Do the right thing. All right, moving on. So again, yeah, the Epstein files are out there. Elated that they are, because now you can see what everyone else saw. President Trump signed this piece of legislation. It's out there. Again, did everything go swimmingly with this? No, folks. If you're waiting for me to sit here and tell you all the time, everything was great all the time. My whole first show, I've now covered this 3 times as the news breaks on it. And you see some of the stuff that we saw that's out there. I covered in the first show, or was it the first or maybe the second show? I'm not sure, but last week, you can go look. I covered a tweet by the great Mike Davis, an amazing attorney, where he covered what the problems were initially. Grand jury material, other things like that, CSAM type material that was there that, it's not even, you're not going to put that out there. However, there were some problems. That's what led to a lot of these debates. Now that it's out there, I'm elated because you can see everything. You deserve to see everything at this point. The case has national attention because it's a really tragic, disgusting, horrific case that rightfully so has encompassed the American public's mind for a long time, me included. But it's weird how the liberal media people, after President Trump signed the bill, the legislation, that's just a fact. How we got there, you can argue about all day. You can. But all they wanted was accountability. And then all of a sudden, I got tons of tweets about this in text last night. One of them from a friend said, Dan, you were right again. Look who's back. Guy, you remember the fixer? Guy knew right away. I said, Guy, title this thing The Fixer. He knew right away. Remember Obama's fixer, his lawyer in the White House, one of them, Catherine Rumler? Catherine Rumler was a player in just about every Obama administration scandal. I don't have time for it today, but if you go back and just put it in the search engines, you'll see some of the Rumble shows in the past. We covered this at length. Benghazi, the IRS scandal, the Secret Service scandal. Rumler's in the middle of all of it. All of it. So we used to call her the fixer, Catherine Rumler. Now, again, folks, everybody has the constitutional right to speak out and defend themselves. I'm just telling you, where is the demands for accountability from Obama's team? Obama, I haven't heard say much about this at all. What am I getting at? Here's Alex Berzowitz, who's a great guy, put out a tweet on this. Hey, Wall Street Journal, here's a better headline for you. Obama's close friend and former White House counsel, Catherine Rumler, is out at Goldman Sachs after her deep connection to Jeffrey Epstein was exposed by documents released by the Trump administration. No wonder Biden and Kamala didn't make an effort to release these files when they were in power. The Journal and others, why aren't you mentioning that this was a key figure in the Obama administration? You're just mentioning it was Goldman's top lawyer? You don't think that's important? It seems all these liberal media outlets, when they speculated about information about Donald Trump that turned out to all be, bullshit, and they were all over that. I talked about it 3 times, only been on the air 2 weeks. You guys going to be honest about this stuff or not? And by the way, I cite the Wall Street Journal a lot. I like the outlet. I think they do some good work. But, I found it kind of weird a couple of weeks ago when President Trump was on the podcast. Instead of properly citing the work, they wrote this piece after we cite their work all the time. And they were like, he appeared on a podcast. You can mention what it is so people can find it. It's not going to kill you. You want accountability? Fine. Be fair about it. At least speak honestly about these Democrats involved in these files. Reid Hoffman, Clinton. How about that shit? Everything's a bullshit attack on the Trump administration, as if there was never any effort at all. That's bullshit. And again, for the 1,000th time, if you're waiting for me here to be like, oh, look, we're all here. There's no, listen, look, Fokker, check me out here. Eyeballs. Listen to me. Are you zooming in for effect? Thank you, Guy. I did not ask them to do that, but now they're just doing it. Seriously. There are no fucking heroes in this story. You understand? There are no heroes in this story. Mistakes are made all the time. We're fallible people. All you can do is try to correct them and explain them. And again, don't over-explain them. Just explain what you did and why. There are people who are going to disapprove of you. That's okay. It's okay. It's never comfortable for the person who's disapproved of. However, it's okay. And it's far better than the alternative, which is suppressing people's voices. But there are no heroes in any of these stories. There's just the truth. And now you can see it for yourself. But these liberal media people are full of shit. All right, getting to some good news. This just cracked this morning. I've got a lot to get to, a ton. Folks, I got Congressman Brandon Gill coming on later. This guy's a real rock star, very intelligent guy coming on at 11:30. You're not going to want to miss that. He is just a fantastic representative out of Texas 26. But on the good news front, again, I'm usually good at this, licking the finger and seeing where the political winds are going. I can't for the life of me understand why the doom and gloom class on our side, and they're there. You can deny it all you want. Oh, stop calling us. You're there. I'm not telling you. I just went over this whole thing saying how accountability matters, has to matter. We have to stick to results and facts. But when the facts come out, what I don't understand about the doom and gloom class, I get why the liberal media does it, is why they just ignore those facts. They don't even talk about it. Why does the Trump administration not get credit for this unbelievable economic show they're putting on right now? I mean, this is incredible. 4 and 5% GDP growth. Put that in perspective. Obama was in office 8 years, folks. Think about this. Everyone, zoom in. Obama was in office 8 years. So he zooms in. He never reached 3% GDP growth, ever. What we produce. Trump is on pace now for potentially 2 straight quarters to surpass 4. That is huge. This is an amazing story. Not only that, he inherited the worst inflation crisis since Jimmy freaking Carter from Sleepy Joe Spaghetti Brains. And now it appears even the inflation crisis has been stemmed temporarily. I'm not telling you this is a long-term, medium-term fix, but at least for now, the numbers are good. Right before we came on the air this morning live, this popped about the inflation number coming in lower. Yes, lower than expected. Okay, this is accountability too, correct? It's a result. It's an actual number. Check this out.
And an upside surprise here, or a downside surprise, year over year at 2.4, had been expected at 2.5%. And I think one of the reasons is this rent of owner's equivalent rent coming in at a relatively low 0.2%. Energy down 1.5%, gasoline down 3.2%, new vehicle sales up 0.2%. I am looking for the core number, CPI year over year 2.4%, ex-food energy, that came in at consensus plus 2.5%. And real earnings were pretty good, up 0.5% after declining in the prior month. So this looks like a good CPI number.
Okay, I'm just using logic and reason. If we're going to be transactional spreadsheets people and vote on results for accountability purposes, shouldn't we at least factor in the good stuff too? This is amazing. This is an incredible number, lower than expected. It's not the end of the fight. There's certainly a debt problem in this country that's still out of control, but this is a good thing. Notice how I give both sides? I'm proud of this freaking show. I love this show. We're never going to bullshit you. Do we have a massive debt problem? Yes. Is it a Republican administration, Congress, and the Senate, although we got a filibuster problem? It is. We have a spending problem. However, given those constraints, here's the negative, here's the positive. The GDP numbers are incredible. Thank you, Guy. I didn't even ask someone to put this in the show. Look at the inflation numbers. Trump 45, 2%. Biden 4.95. Trump 2.35. Back down. Those are just the numbers, man. I mean, if there's a report card that matters, this stuff has to matter. These are like grades. The grade for me on the economy so far is a freaking A-. And the only reason I say minus is because I know there's more coming next year too. Folks, getting back to what I discussed in the middle of the show, I don't mean to jump around, but that happened just before we came on the air, and I want to make sure we have a huge audience that comes in the beginning. I didn't want to miss it. This is good news, good news, good news, good news. Get the price inflation under control. I was discussing the Guthrie case in terms of cooperation and the larger story here about federal versus state, local, territorial, we call them SLTTs. It's just easier to say it that way, law enforcement officials. It is really, really important to instill a sense of cooperation. We have an FBI for a reason. It's to support national crime efforts, counterintelligence, and counterterror. That's what they're there for. We made sure we were there to ensure a culture of accommodation. I promise you. You notice you've never seen any leaks about that. For as much as these leaking scumbags inside there, and a lot of folks did some amazing work, and I appreciate that. However, there were scumbags on the inside leaking like, Dan came in this morning and drank a cup of decaf coffee or whatever. It was ridiculous. You couldn't say shit because they just... I would say, like, what is this, a bunch of, like, gossiping teenage girls? This freaking Mean Girls? Get a freaking hold of yourself. One of the things you never saw leak ever, because it would never happen, was us big dog in local law enforcement. But politicians and local law enforcement leaders can't seem to do the same thing. So if we can go in there, Cash and I, and say, hey, guys, we got to work with local law enforcement, fix this crime problem nationwide. What I don't understand and can't get my arms around is why can't politicians on a bipartisan basis get their heads out of their asses and the Democrats dump the defund the police shit and just get back to hey, we're going to silo that off. We're going to silo that off and we are going to get together, sit at a table, sing Kumbaya, roast marshmallows, and figure out a way to crush violent crime, counterterrorism, and figure out the espionage situation in the United States. They can't do it. Local law enforcement leaders, I'm not talking about the guys working the cases too. You're seeing it out there in Pima County. Politicians bullshitting people about what's happening at the border efforts. Here's a perfect example, textbook of what I mean. Here's this Representative Lou Correa on CNN. You would think control of our border would be a bipartisan net positive, correct? We don't want people coming in the country illegally. You're like, Dan, I get it, but I understand. But it's one thing to lie about President Trump's massive success on the border. Massive. You want a grade on that? A++++++++. No one's ever done what he did. 20 million people in the country illegally, down to 0 illegal migrants admitted. 0, like a freaking goose egg. 0. You've never seen anything like it. So you get credit? No. You get representatives like this who go and say, he gets the number exactly backwards. Listen to what he says about, hey, 70% of these illegals, he gets the number backwards. 70% have a pending criminal charge or have been convicted of a criminal charge. He's got it completely backwards. But did he do it on purpose or is he just dumb? Who knows? Listen to yourself.
I'd like to see ICE continue targeted enforcement of those who are here illegally with criminal records. Do you support that?
Look, what I support is what the president promised the American public. He was supposed to go after the worst of the worst criminals. That is not what he's doing. 70% of the people they've deported don't even have a traffic ticket. Most of the individuals out there that are picking them up are essentially hardworking, undocumented taxpayers.
He gets the number completely backwards. Is he dumb or is he a liar? 70% of the people who have been deported have a pending criminal charge, have been convicted of a criminal charge, or are in the legal process for some criminal activity. He gets the number totally backwards. This is why we have this bifurcated political environment where, and I'm going to address this with this Apple News story coming up in just a little bit here, how Apple News there were 0 conservative outlets or close to 0 cited in the Apple News. People use Apple News every day. Why do we live in basically 2 separate, completely different worlds, the red world and the blue world? And there's no intersection anymore. There used to be down ballot voting. People would vote for a Democrat senator or a Republican congressman. Almost never happens anymore. Why? Because you've got a lying media that never, ever corrects these people. I just got done with the first 25 minutes of the show. And thank you for the 60,000+ people here so far in our live chat. Appreciate it. I just got done telling you good, bad, here's what we did wrong, here's what we did right. I'm glad we learned from it. You would think these CNN folks would be like, Representative Correa, you got the number exactly backwards. Listen, I don't care if they say it or not. Well, I don't agree with President Trump's policies, they may say, but that number's not accurate. They can't do it. Here's Tricia McLaughlin doing a great job at DHS correcting misinformation. Thanks, Guy. She says drug trafficking, distribution of child porn, burglary, fraud, DUIs, embezzlement, solicitation of a minor, human smuggling. They're all categorized as, quote, nonviolent crime. She was like we said, 70% of those illegal aliens arrested under President Trump and Secretary Noem have pending criminal charges or prior convictions. The dude has the number completely backwards. That's why we have red news, blue news, and there's no intersection at all. None. You have people on the right who correct their own bullshit. You do. I'm not telling you all of us, but we got a lot of good people out there who will correct the bullshit. You saw it with Epstein and other things. You have people on the right like, hey, we want this done differently. They go after it. And course corrections are made. Does the left ever course correct at all? They still believe the Russia hoax happened, man. And that's what leads to things like this. Tom Homan had to go out and clean up Minnesota because there was freaking riots in the street. And Homan's got to spend, 30 seconds to a minute of his presser debunking liberal bullshit that ICE is raiding hospital beds. The poor illegal was in life-saving surgery for a heart attack. And the minute they cut the chest open and cracked the sternum, ICE came in and raided it and put his chest back together with crazy glue and ripped him out. It's all bullshit. None of this is true. Check this out.
During the surge operation, ICE has not arrested anybody inside a hospital. We have not arrested anybody inside of a school, an elementary school. We have not arrested anybody inside a church. As a matter of fact, the only ones that disrespected the sanctuary of a church were the agitators that have been arrested and prosecuted. And so far, we have 9 of them.
This is all, folks, all of that stuff is made up. The 70% number that they put out there, Correa, 70% did nothing wrong. It's backward. They're all wrong. Yeah, ISIS in these places trying to get out illegals. That story's all bullshit. Here's who they're really sending out of the country. The great Bill Malugin over at Fox, who's done amazing work on immigration, used to be at the border. Now he's moved up a couple of times. Malugin puts his tweet out. ICE Los Angeles arrests a Mexican illegal alien who was previously arrested for sodomizing a child under the age of 10. Sorry for the language here, but it's true. Sexual penetration of a victim under 14 and lewd acts with a child under 14. This is who you're defending, Democrats? Now, I told you a long time ago, the left has made the judicial process punishment. They did it for Donald Trump, filing ridiculous charges and civil suits up in New York. All of this bullshit. Now, all of a sudden, you're seeing this all turn around, where the process wasn't intended to be punishment. The process was the process before Donald Trump took office, period. However, a lot of these folks in the country illegally, this is what I voted for, CBS News. A lot of people are self-deporting now because they're like, you know what? It's not so easy anymore to come into the open borders, welfare state, and collect money U.S. taxpayers work for and basically steal their money while they're in the country illegally. CBS News. I love this characterization, by the way. You see this as pathways to freedom of narrative. There is a freaking pathway. It's called the legal immigration process, you numbnuts. As pathways to freedom have narrowed in immigration courts across the U.S., a record number of detainees are giving up their cases and voluntarily leaving the country. Good. That is exactly what we all voted for. Now we don't have to spend a whole bunch of money to get you out. You can get yourself out and try coming back the legal way. We have a pathway to freedom. My wife took it. It's called the citizenship process. Do you guys know Sean Farish? The guy's amazing. He made his name early on because he does an amazing Trump impersonation. But hey, Josh, wouldn't you agree? Like, Sean is really evolved. Sean does his own show right now, does commentary. He fills in for Vince a lot. I may use him to fill in for this show on some days off. Sean has really, really evolved. I mean, this is one of the top guys, I think, in the business right now. And you all should follow him. Sean, S-H-A-W-N, Farish, like far, F-A-R-A-S-H, like far, ash, like ashtray. Sean Farish. Please go check him out. He filled in for Vince yesterday, and he just did an amazing, amazing job. I want you to listen to this minute of his commentary, because this is one of those things, again, I like to believe I'm really good at picking out stories. I miss stuff too. I can't believe I missed this. He mentions this Democrat carve-out in this immigration and the SAVE Act about polls. You know what? I'm just going to let him explain it. Do not miss this. I can't believe I did. Check this out.
Left, I think, might have made an admission here that illegal aliens are indeed voting in our elections. The Democrats are trying to ban immigration enforcement in some very specific locations, at any place of worship, at a hospital, at a school. But now they're adding one more sensitive location, our polling places. Okay. So if illegal aliens aren't voting in our elections, then why does it matter if Immigration and Customs Enforcement is enforcing immigration law at polling places? Because you're telling me that those who are violating immigration law aren't showing up to polling places. So it shouldn't matter. This, to me, right here, is an admission. They're saying, yeah, all right, you're right. Illegals are voting in elections, and we don't want them to get caught. So we're adding polling places as a safe zone, a sanctuary zone for illegal aliens. So you can't arrest anybody who's in the country illegally at a polling place. What is somebody who's in the country illegally doing at a polling place in the first place? The left wants ICE to stay away from polling places because they know that illegal aliens are voting in elections.
I see 5-6 ran in the chat. Sirens, red flags. We love Sean Farish. Brad the Man 2026 says, I've never heard of him. Well, now you have. And it's Sean Farish, Farash. He has Farris. That's not his name. So, yes, isn't that, why would you, if there are no illegals at polling locations because they can't vote, then what the hell are you worried about it for? Folks, this is such bullshit. I'm telling you right now, the Democrats pretending that this immigration issue is about compassion and people who want to come here to work. I'm not disputing people want to come here to work, but there's a process to come here to work. I'm going to ask Congressman Brandon Gill about this later. I guarantee you, remember this. Mark my words, write them down, tattoo them on your brain. I'm not suggesting this is a good idea, but if it were to happen, imagine an alternate universe where some legislator puts out a piece of legislation and says, listen, we're going to let everyone come in the country illegally, no borders, no nothing, but there's going to be two catches. Number one, you can't get any government benefits ever for the rest of your life. They're only for American citizens right now. And second, you are not allowed to vote until the second generation. They can't vote at all. I guarantee, I'm not telling you it's a good idea. I guarantee you, absolutely guarantee you, the Democrats would say no. I thought it was about compassion. I'll bring it up later with Congressman Gill, too. I thought it was about compassion. You just wanted people to live here in the United States. No, you don't. You want them to vote because of the electoral map, and you want them to vote because it's going to alter election results, and you want to pay them off with the welfare state to make sure they vote with you forever, and you know it. I'm going to take a quick break, but on the other side of this break, did you see this Apple News story? Folks, I know a lot has changed since President Trump, thank the Lord, won this election. Can you imagine, by the way, in the chat, where we would be right now if President Trump had not won? Do you have any idea? There'd be no rumble. There'd be no nothing. We would be basically all in handcuffs right now. I mean, the place would be a train wreck. After what we walked into there, what I saw, holy Moses, was the place a mess. And the reason it's a mess is because there's a red world and a blue world with no intersection anymore in truth. None. And you're going to see why in a second. Quick break. Hey, last year, as I said, opened my eyes to a lot of things. Not all of them good. A lot of them are bad. But one thing I found particularly disturbing was a lot of the infighting going on. We have a certain set of principles. Patriot Mobile aligns with 100%. You know what they are. Freedom of speech, the right to life. Practice your religion, petition the government, the Second Amendment, supporting our military and first responders. We got to stay focused on these things. They matter. The one company that's been fighting for our rights for a long time, they supported this program from the beginning. I know the folks that run it. It is an amazing company. Is Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile. Unlike these other mobile providers, Patriot Mobile works on all three major networks. In fact, you can be on multiple networks on the same phone. More importantly, their customers enjoy priority service with the same or better quality as their old providers. Guy, right? Guy loves Patriot Mobile. Milton was his customer service provider. He loves Milton. You guys should get together. We got to get Milton on the show. Patriot Mobile is 100% U.S. I don't know if Milton's there. Yeah, Paula, reach out to Glenn, see if Milton's still there. Patriot Mobile's 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes switching fast and super easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Go to patriotmobile.com/Dan and get a free month of service with offer code Dan. This company's been fighting for things we all believe in for over a decade. Thank them by making the switch today. patriotmobile.com/Dan. Go today. That's patriotmobile.com/Dan. Thank you, Patriot Mobile. And our second sponsor, Simply Save. Actually, third. If you're like me, you become totally desensitized, to a lot of these phone notifications we get every single day. A lot of us have. We get a lot of them. Most of them are random alerts, and sometimes you just swipe, you don't even think about it. But if the latest ping is from your security camera, that's a little different. Ignoring it could spell disaster or worse. Imagine someone breaking in while you're in a meeting at work, sitting in a movie theater, or flying at 30,000 feet. You'll see the footage eventually, but by then it's far too late to do anything about it. Listen, on a very serious note, I have to take my security very seriously. We've had a lot of issues, and you should too. Producer Jim just recently followed my advice. He signed up with Simply Safe. It's a customizable whole home security system backed by 24/7 monitoring agents so you can rely on them to act when you can't. You're not going to always be able to get it. They have agents there watching it. Simply Safe's Active Guard outdoor protection helps prevent break-ins before they happen. And unlike other companies, Simply Safe has no long-term contracts. They earn your trust day after day. They're so confident in their protection, they even offer an anti-theft guarantee. Can't beat that. Right now, my listeners can get 50% off, 50% off their new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/Dan. That's simply with an I, SIMPLI. That's simplysafe.com/Dan Bongino. Simplysafe.com/Dan Bongino. Again, simply with an I. Simplysafe.com/Dan Bongino. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, back to the show. Folks, I told you we live in this red and blue universe right now with no intersection at all. And I promise you it wasn't always this way. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough. I've lived 1,000 lifetimes at 51. I've made some mistakes. I've had some ups and downs. Again, wrote a whole book about it. You learn from them, whatever. You get the point. But I have been following politics for a long time. And the slow separation of America into two completely different places, I promise you, is not a good thing. And who is responsible for this and the lack of faith in institutions anymore? A lot of people, but if I had to put the tip of the spear, it's the media. The media just cannot tell the truth when it involves the Republican Party or even a Democrat that doesn't align with their far left agenda. Did you see this report? Out of, was this some media research center this came out of? This was, I got a text about it last night from Dan. They did a great job on this. Apple News is where a lot of Americans go to get their news every day. Well, folks, why would you be in a blue universe of lies rather than a red universe of truth? What was that?
MRCS.
MRC, great outlet, Media Research Center. Why? Because you're reading Apple News every day and you're getting exactly zero conservative outlets to tell you the truth, to interpret what the red universe of truth even looks like. Check out this report from Fox about what's going on at Apple News. It's an eye-opener for all the wrong reasons. Check this out.
All right, Apple News is being accused of purposely boosting left-wing media outlets while suppressing conservative ones.
Ty Pyro is joining us with the details. Good morning, Ty.
Good morning to all three of you. This all stems from a study done by conservative watchdog Media Research Center, which found that of the 620 stories that ran during high-traffic morning time slots in January, the vast majority were from left-leaning outlets, while none were from conservative-leaning outlets.
So why is it? I was reading through X this morning, scrolling through my timeline. I know a lot of you do this too. I enjoy X for the lifetime reaction to a lot of things. I was reading the story this guy posts, and forgive me, I always hat tip. I didn't intend on making it part of the show, but it's so important right now. Guy said, I went over my sister-in-law's house and I mentioned whatever it was, the border with her, and my sister's a liberal, and she threw me out of the house. Why does that happen? Why does that happen? Why does your liberal sister-in-law, brother-in-law, whatever, cousin throw you out of the house? I'm going to talk about it. Because they live in a blue universe where they have exactly no conservative news outlets they see at any time to highlight actual numbers. Inflation finally coming down below expectations. Border migrant illegals introduced to the country, 0. Violent crime at the lowest rates ever recorded. The murder rate at the lowest rates ever recorded. GDP growth exploding. Those are freaking numbers. That is a presidential report card. That is what you are supposed to base your analysis of how this guy does on. Whether you vote for him is up to you. It's a republic. But why is your liberal sister-in-law, Karen, pissed off all the time? You come over, hey, I got you a turkey sandwich. Turkey sandwich, throws it in your face. Because she's probably watching or reading Apple News where she's never heard the other side of the story, which, by the way, is the truth. She's not going to know about this Catherine Rumler story. And if she does, she goes, oh, it's a Goldman Sachs lawyer. It was Obama's lawyer she was. You're not going to see that anywhere. You will see this, however. I got this Sky News clip about this horrific shooting up in Canada. Horrible, horrible story. It was another, as we covered yesterday, apparently another act of trans-based violence, which is out of control. Out of control. But the person involved in this was a man. You can pretend to be a woman, but you are not. But remember yesterday, if you missed yesterday's show, I discussed how when Cash and I got there at the FBI, we immediately changed it. And, you know, when the whole record comes out, which it will, you'll see it yourself over time. I showed you some receipts yesterday that I could put out there. We changed the threat banding system to do an analytical product on this that had never been done before on trans violence. As a matter of fact, some, not all, but some people in the Bureau didn't want to do it. And we were like, this is not a freaking question. Do it. What part of this did you think was optional? We were deadly serious about looking at this. Here's a Sky News report. Remember, this is a man pretending to be a woman. And the Sky News report, I had mentioned how this, if you're looking at the wrong problem, you're never going to find a solution. It's like, man, I can't believe this. Like a female attacker? This doesn't usually happen. Because it didn't. It was a man. Check this out.
They say the attacker was dead when they found her. She had a self-inflicted wound, and she matched the description given in an earlier police alert. Female, wearing a dress with brown hair. That is extremely unusual. It's rare to have a female attacker.
It's not a female attacker. That's why it's rare. Holy Moses. When we got in there, we said, you guys got to look at this, man. It's not a question. Do it. Not all this stuff is out there. I'm going to do my best to get it out there so you understand again. Hold us accountable too. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Female attackers are rare. Yes, and they're still rare because it wasn't a female attacker. Yet if you're reading that at Apple News and elsewhere, you probably still believe it was a woman who did this. And then you're out there looking for a woman. It's not a woman. If you're reading Apple News, you probably also believe that now, after Donald Trump pulled back the Obama administration endangerment finding, it's a little bit of a wonky story, but I'm going to make it really easy for everyone to understand. You probably believe, if you're watching ABC News or elsewhere, that this is it. Smokestacks emitting poison into the neighborhoods everywhere now. President Trump came out yesterday and he's polluting the air and ignoring the science. Just to be clear what he did, he pulled back the Obamacare endangerment finding on CO2. Here's what happened. Very long story, extremely short. 2007 Supreme Court ruling on the Clean Air Act, which said greenhouse gases can be basically regulated, except the Clean Air Act never mentioned carbon dioxide, ever. So this has always been controversial. Obama basically wanted to shut down the energy environment in the country for his utopian fairyland. President Trump said, no more. We're getting rid of that, and that's it. Here's David Moore. How do you say this guy's name, by the way? Anyone in the chat, can you help me? David Moore. Here's David Moore at ABC. Hey, listen, man, President Trump, in defiance of the science, but it's pollution. This is the hysteria I'm talking about. Liberals probably believe this today. They're probably pulling their hair out, thinking this is it. Dirty water, filthy water everywhere. Check this out.
Tonight, President Trump has repealed U.S. power to regulate climate in this country. The president officially rejecting the science. And what this now clears the way for. Critics tonight arguing this is not only dangerous for the environment, but for your health.
For your health, folks. You're all going to die. Remember, what was it? Was it Reverend Kane Poltergeist 2, he's playing the radio. You're all gonna die. That is not at all what happened. That is not, there is no scientific consensus out there you speak of with real scientists that this is an apocalyptic episode for humanity. None. You're just making that up. But again, if you're reading Apple News, you would think that the world is in chaos. Everybody's going to die tomorrow. Dogs and cats. Reminds me of the Ghostbusters thing. I need you to pay attention to this segment. This is important. Folks, I told you many times how much I like X. I like social media platforms a lot, not just X, but I go there. It's where I can communicate with you all. I enjoy it. But as I've said often, and I'm always going to give you both sides, there's ups and downs to it. The problem now with information out there all the time quickly is not all of it is accurate. And it's difficult to constantly fight an asymmetric battle like the Trump administration's forced into. I think back to go back to Biden and remember the whipping story at the border? Border Patrol agents were whipping. The story was total bullshit. Liberals still to this day believe that a bunch of Border Patrol agents on horses were whipping people. It's a fake story. It's totally, completely made up, 100% fabricated. But because of this open media environment, which is a good net positive thing, but there are some downsides. Lies travel around the world like that, and they're almost impossible to stop. And liberals believe them because Apple News won't give them the other side. The problem, folks, and I got to be careful here, but it's important I get it out there. Foreign enemies of the United States absolutely know this. There are influence campaigns foreign governments are using to make sure to magnify division in the United States, not just across parties. Listen to me. But within parties as well. That's a fact. Deny it, and you're going to make a fool of yourself. Now, I have to use pretty much open source stuff here. I got to be careful about how deeply I dig into this. But when I talked about earlier in the show with Apple News, why there's a red world and a blue world, and they both believe completely separate things now, foreign governments want it that way and are amplifying that division to make sure those worlds never connect. And even within the red and blue world, that they want to sit there and eat each other alive every day too. You see it through botting. You see it through the magnification of bullshit. New York Post put out a story about this yesterday. Just citing their reporting, it's about leftist groups. You see how this happens. This is how they magnify division. New York Post. State Department identifies Code Pink and other far-left groups as vectors of Chinese influence operations. They note Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy Sarah Rogers said, partisan hacks spent years peddling the collusion hoax and turned a blind eye to the sprawling web of far-left organizations who push the agenda of the CCP. She notes Code Pink and the People's Forum denigrate the United States, whitewash Marxism, run cover for China, while enjoying an influx of cash from a donor network with connections to the CCP. Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you with a bevy of experience now in the space, both as a commentator and having been on the inside, it is far, far worse than this. This is just the stuff they can say publicly. So when you're on X or other platforms, they are great platforms. Rumble, I get it. Rumble as well. You know, I'm an investor there. I like free speech. People go on Rumble all the time. They say, I hate Dan Bongino. Good for you. That's what free speech is about. That is what free speech is about. But I just want you to understand, every platform out there is dealing with this problem. I'm not telling you, I hate when people say X isn't real life. And no, it's real life. It's absolutely real life. There are people who love and hate what you did. That's a fact. But good chunks of it are artificially driven to make sure that we are at each other's throats. My audience, obviously, given, thank you to, again, the 73,000 people here right now and the millions who've watched the show, I've always been comfortable that you are a really smart audience who have the discernment to figure out what's real and what isn't. And I thank you for that. I appreciate it. Folks, I mentioned yesterday also the national security environment degrading quickly in this country. Thank God for President Trump to stop what was happening under Biden. is very perilous. I don't want anyone to panic, and I'm not here to be the panic show. Be prepared. You should always be prepared. Preparedness matters. Don't live, if you put your, you do the right thing and you put your life in the hands of God and Jesus, you're going to be okay in the end. I always say, let your will be done. But you need to be prepared. God never told anyone to turn a blind eye to anything, okay? Be prepared. The national security environment is perilous. The CCP and others are taking advantage of this, trying to drive a wedge in between the United States citizenry to make sure we eat each other alive, Yuri Bezmenov style, from the inside, because they can't defeat us easily from the outside. So they want us to eat ourselves alive. Guy, can you pull up the drone story at the Wall Street Journal? I'll bring this up with Congressman Gill later as well. If you missed this Wall Street Journal story yesterday, folks, you should check it out. Gillian K. Malchoir, NATO has seen the future, talking about war, and is unprepared. A simulation of drone warfare shows how far the alliance has to go to learn the lessons of Ukraine. Here, quick note about this piece. They did a simulation about drones, NATO countries, in warfare, what it would look like. Overall, quote, the results were horrible for NATO forces. The adversary forces were, quote, listen to this, able to eliminate 2 battalions in a day. So that in an exercise sense, basically they were not able to fight anymore after that. The NATO side, quote, didn't even get our drone teams. Stay on top of your government, demand accountability, but pay very close attention to foreign influence campaigns designed to divide you, because the threats out there, ladies and gentlemen, drones, the threats of AI getting out of control, the threats from hypersonic missiles, the threats from space are real. They are not artificial. And when you see them, you can't unsee them. I addressed it with Senator Tuberville yesterday. I say to Paul all the time, after you see this stuff, ignorance is bliss sometimes. You can't go back and unsee it. I promised you yesterday, too, I would address this AI blog piece that went out from is it Matthew Schumer? Yeah, I think it's Matt Schumer. I don't know the gentleman, never met him. This thing has gone nuclear. It is everywhere. He is a guy knee deep in this whole AI evolving process. He wrote this blog post about what's going on with AI now. It is everywhere. Peggy Noonan wrote about it yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. It's all over social media, TikTok, X. I saw people talking about it on Rumble. He's at Matt Schumer, Schumer. Is that an underscore at the end? It's a verified account. And he's talking about basically an AI that, folks, we have a problem here. I love the productivity enhancement effects of AI. I'm not sure how the job environment's going to look. I addressed that yesterday. It hasn't had any effects yet. The job numbers went up, not down. Those are just numbers. I do numbers, okay? Opinions are great, but they got to be backed up by numbers. But he notes that you don't understand, keep this up, Guy. It's really important. Schumer addresses how, the Industrial Revolution and electricity and other things, it took a while to implement that. You had to build the power lines, the generation. You had to build the coal-fired power plants to generate all this stuff. AI is evolving by the day. By the day. How quickly can you adapt when it's happening every day? He notes in 2022, AI couldn't do basic, wait, scroll down again. Couldn't do basic arithmetic. By 2023, it could pass the bar exam. By 2024, it could write working software and explain graduate-level science. By late 2025, some of the best engineers in the world said they'd handed over most of their coding work to AI. He notes, on February 5th, 2026, just a week ago, new models arrived that made everything before them feel like a different era. If you haven't tried AI in the last few months, he notes, what exists today would be unrecognizable to you. Folks, I have a lot of experience using AI. I'm not an AI developer. I don't pretend to be some super tech genius. Okay, I'm not going to bullshit you. I use AI a lot because I'm very concerned about my health. Not a sob story, but I went through this whole cancer thing, whatever. You get the point. Everything's good so far. But I'm very concerned about my health. I know I'm giving up a lot of privacy. You don't have to. I know a ton of you are going to send me. I get it. I understand. I just can't get dead, okay? I monitor my blood work. I take all these Signatera tests, these Gallery blood work tests for cancer, or Natera. I take these full body, I get these full body MRIs. I don't want to die. You don't either. When you get cancer, it scares the shit out of you. I poured this stuff into an AI system, and I use it all the time. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Is that out there in some ether, AI ether? Is AI systems talking to each other? Like, hey, I think this is Dan Bongino. He'd asked some questions early on related to law enforcement, so he sounds like that FBI guy. Is this guy going to die? You think he's going to die? I don't know what's out there. Is it the brave new world? It's a trade-off I'm willing to make because I don't want to die. I'm not suggesting that trade-off is right for you. It's the same discussion we had yesterday in light of the Guthrie case about these Nest and Ring doorbells. You have to decide in the future, not knowing with AI, facial recognition, all this other stuff, where this stuff is ever going to go. Do you want to put one of these doorbells in front of your house? That Super Bowl commercial, what was it, for Ring with Finding the Dog? I got to tell you, completely backfired, scared the hell out of a lot of people. It didn't scare me because I figured they were already doing it. And seeing from the other side, the ability to use technology, folks, you're going to have to make some very, very serious adult decisions moving forward about how much of your liberty you're willing to sacrifice for your own personal security. And you better hope and pray that the next FBI, CIA, DNI, DEA, IRS, and all of them, imagine the IRS with uncontrolled AI going through every single expenditure you make. Every single American would be in jail as a tax cheat. Oh, come on. Really. Listen, cheating on your taxes is against the law. Tax avoidance has become like a national pastime. Those are two different things. Tax avoidance is legal, using legal strategies. Is there a gray area? There's always a gray area. That's why lawyers and accountants make a lot of money. You don't think AI, the government uses that? You're all going to be in jail. Folks, this stuff is happening now. It's not happening tomorrow. It's happening now. These tools are out there. Cash and I told everyone, and I hear a lot of commentary on TV, and I don't like knocking other commentators, but some of these people don't know shit. I heard, one of them a couple of days ago talking about all this AI stuff and all. Cash and I had very severe restrictions on the use of AI in criminal cases and how it was going to be used. Because there are issues. Got to be careful, man. There's a lot going on, man. A lot going on behind the scenes. But you get bad actors in there, it's going to be real trouble. Ring doorbells, tax records, you pour this in. Every single American would be a criminal if you want AI to find something you did wrong. You've heard the example before. I hate using this example, but it matters. Everyone's ripped the mattress tag off. All right, whatever. That's probably an exaggeration. However, I promise you, you get AI pouring through tax records, going through Ring doorbell records, and probing the internet for every single thing you've ever posted on social media, Reddit, Tumblr back in the day. Everyone's going to be a criminal. Ups and the downs. There's going to be massive productivity enhancements. The wealth created from this is going to be like nothing you've ever seen. Your kids are going to live in a world where cancer is probably cured, where Alzheimer's, there's mitigation techniques. Your kids are going to live in a world where traffic patterns are instantly updated because of automatic AI, not even going to put their hands on the wheel. All of a sudden, you're going to see traffic not dissipate, but significantly impacted. Driverless cars. Chemical sciences, materials, new materials you've never seen before that conduct electricity with almost no impedance whatsoever. Elon talking about space-based data centers that use the power of the sun and don't need as much cooling. Your kids are going to be so rich, but let's not bullshit people. Your kids are going to be living in a world where everybody is watching all the time. Everybody. You don't want them in handcuffs. Be very careful how you vote. All All right, a couple of things I wanted to get to as well. I'll address this with Congressman Gill too. Folks, we talked about a topic yesterday that lit up the. I get a lot of emails about the show. I got a ton on this. This is a very controversial topic, but I have to address it because the two are related. The filibuster and the SAVE Act. If we all can't vote in elections we trust are free and fair. Free meaning people who are eligible to vote can vote. Obviously, fair meaning who you voted for is who you voted for, and the outcome is fair. Not hard to figure out. If we can't trust that our elections are real, and the Democrats who said they were cheated out of every election ever until President Trump won, and then it changed. How dare you guys talk about stolen elections? They're so full of shit. The SAVE Act, where we'd implement national voter ID, is unanimously supported by every racial demographic, Democrats, Republicans, everyone. The Democrats are out of arguments about it. If we don't have this, folks, if we don't have it, we're going to be in a world of trouble going forward because the Democrats love cheating. They just do. They love open borders, they love the welfare state, and they love cheating in elections. That's just a fact. The only way to get it passed is going to be to drop the filibuster. Listen to me. They are going to, if they take power after the midterms, the Senate. Remember this show. Guys, can you remember the Flag It? Have we done Flag It yet? Chat, get on this. We need you guys. Flag it in the chat. What's the date today? February 13th? Is it Friday the 13th? Friday the 13th. Oh my gosh. Friday the 13th. I'm just waiting for Jason Voorhees to pop in here. Flag it in the chat. Thank you. We haven't done that in a while. If the Democrats take power in the Senate, they are going to drop the filibuster within probably a couple months, or they're going to make a hard effort to do it. Can't predict the future. They're going to make a hard effort to do it, to get rid of the filibuster. We might as well do it now. Pass the SAVE Act and make sure we have free and fair elections where we have a good shot at winning going forward. Of course, Obama came out against the SAVE Act. Obama, you know, Catherine Rumler, his fixer, appeared in the Epstein files. Everybody's suspiciously quiet all of a sudden in the media. Yet here's this weird video of Obama, seemingly with no problem at all, years ago going to vote, being asked for ID.
Oh, you're right.
This is.
I've got my driver's license. Here you go.
How hard was that? The guy's the president of the United States, or was voting, was a candidate at the time. Was he in 2012? Was that 2012? So yeah. President figures it out pretty easily. Hey, here's my ID. It's not complicated. And yet Obama's tweeting about the SAVE Act. Oh, man, I don't know. It's a really bad idea. Apparently you could figure it out. What, is everyone else dumb and you were the only one smart enough, air quotes, to figure it out? We haven't used that in a while. Hat tip Daily Wire on that one. Yet Obama's against the SAVE Act. Folks, they have no substantive argument as to why people should not be able to show who they are, to buy Allegra, an allergy medication, in a store, but not to engage in the most important civic act possible, which is picking leaders for the country in a representative democracy. There's no argument against it. I want you to watch this. Here's Obama, by the way, at Barack Obama. Republicans still trying to pass the SAVE Act, a bill to make it harder to vote and disenfranchise millions of Americans. What a bullshitter. How about you address the Rumler scenario? Here he is again. Here he is. He has no problem. He wasn't disenfranchised, but he's smarter than you Democrats. He's really the intelligent one, figuring out how to get his freaking wallet. If I had my wallet on me, I'd show you how easy it is. Here's the great Scott Jennings on CNN. Why don't you watch this back and forth? I know you've seen a ton of video on this, but this one just nails it for me. You've got this liberal commentator on CNN, again, talking about people are going to be disenfranchised. They don't know what to do. I can't. And how? He's asking how. What? Explain how. How are they disenfranchised? Because when they implemented voter ID in a bunch of southern states with large black populations, black voter turnout went up, folks. Went up, not down. Those are just the facts. You can look at it yourself. Check this out. Jennings does a great job here. Watch this.
You want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens, that they have to prove with a voter ID. The reality is you're layering what is a constitutional right for the American people and making it harder for people to vote in this country. And it's going to disenfranchise black voters.
Concern you that you're making all these claims? You've yet to lay out how it's hurting anyone, but 76% of black voters think we should show an ID to vote. 80% of Hispanic voters, 83% of the American people Are you saying that black voters
The
are
SAVE
too
Act
dumb to
isn't
know
just,
what's good for them? I
the
mean,
SAVE
it
Act
sounds
isn't
pretty,
just about
it sounds pretty condescending to me.
Now, how is this related to the filibuster? Because, folks, the SAVE Act, National Voter ID, which is a sensible, common sense, logical, rational thing to do, has passed the House. But because we need 60 votes in the Senate, not a simple majority of 51 or 50 plus Vice President Vance, because we need this, what I think is an unreasonable hurdle, I do not support the filibuster. I said it before, I'll say it again. I know it's a controversial take. A lot of people don't like it. It's my opinion. You're allowed to have yours too. That's how this works. The Democrats were all for getting rid of the filibuster. How do I know that? Hat tip the great Maze Moore again for picking this one out. He does a great job on X putting together these clips. Here's Hakeem Jeffries, the leader on the House of Representatives side for the crazy Dems. Here he is basically saying with Al Sharpton that the filibuster is a relic of an old racist America. They wanted to get rid of it. Now they don't. They're full of shit. There's no principles here. Check this out.
Congressman, you tweeted yesterday that the filibuster is a racially tinged artifact of the Jim Crow era. We cannot let it stand in the way of progress.
High priority issues for the American people that are being held up in the Senate right now because of the presence of the filibuster. And so a minority of senators are allowed to block progress for the majority of the American people. And that's something that has to change.
These people are full of shit. I'm telling you, they are going to dump the filibuster. Please remember, can you flag it again? A double flag in the show? They are going to the second, if they take power after these midterms on the Senate side. I promise you, they are going full bore to dump the filibuster. And if they can do it, you're going to see attempt at D.C. statehood and elsewhere to add another liberal state. Flag it again in the chat. Why not just do it now? Why are we playing cute with this? Senator Tuberville was on yesterday from Alabama, running for governor, said the same thing. Dump the filibuster now. I know it's, well, you know, maybe we can get some sense into the Democrats. They don't care about sense. They tried to put Donald Trump in jail. And of course they want to go everything's racist to them. You've heard of it. Racist, everything's racist. The argument is kind of lost. The shame of the whole thing is obviously racism is a legitimate problem that exists. That's fairly obvious. But because the Democrats call everything racist all the time, the word has almost completely lost its meaning. But you know what's really racist? Allowing people in minority neighborhoods in liberal cities to be murdered every single day by drug runners, drug slingers, gangbangers, assholes, demons, child pervs, and everything else because you want to defund the police. That's freaking racist. Really racist. And I spent the last year of my life committed to breaking down this bullshit. And I told our guys, we're going in there, these liberal cities. I don't really give a shit what Brandon Johnson or anyone else thinks of these liberal mayors. I remember having a conversation with one of the supervisors in New York when they said, you know, when Mamdani had won, in between the time he had won and swore in. We don't work for Mamdani. We work for the Department of Justice under the guidance of the President of the United States. I don't give a shit what Mamdani says. We did that open-air drug market raid. Like, it's great to have their cooperation. We want it. It's good. The NYPD was fantastic, by the way. But we don't work for Mamdani. I got Congressman Brandon Gill coming up in about, 15, 20 minutes or so. Excellent representative from Texas. Here he was yesterday talking about the violent crime yesterday with the Attorney General Pam Bondi about the violent crime rate being absolutely crushed. What's racist about, why don't we call racism what it is? Letting Black and Hispanic citizens be preyed on by criminals and street demons? That's freaking racist. Check this out.
All violent crime has decreased as well as robberies.
So murders, violent crime, the country is more safe now, it's fair to say, would you agree, than it was a year and a half ago under Joe Biden?
Absolutely. And Director Patel is working tirelessly to catch those, I'm sure you've been seeing, on the most wanted list. He and Deputy Director Bongino from day one said, we're going to get the most wanted list. And that's what's been happening, working hand in hand with all of our agencies.
I promise I did not play that because I was mentioned. It's Congressman Gill who's coming up. I think you get the point. I told you, there's no heroes in D.C. I never took the job for, palm fronds or to, be a poster or anything, but that's not how this works. Just do the job. And that's what we did. But Congressman Gill's right. This stuff matters. People are alive because of the work that happened there. Now, throughout the beginning of the show, we've covered amazing results. Accountability matters. A report card, if you fail a test, that's got to be factored into your final grade. If you get an A, that's factored into your final grade. We have to know both sides. What I can't stand is a lot of the endless doom and gloom that never ever recognize the A's on the test, but when you get a C, they're like, oh, the C is really bad. It's going to be awful. It is really bad. But they also got 2 A's as well. Let's factor that into a final grade so we can get an output product reflective of what President Trump has done. Folks, we're in really good shape right now with the electorate if we can just get the message out. The Trump administration has a litany of unprecedented victories on crime, the border, the economy. We haven't seen 4 and 5% growth in years. This tweet by Open Source Zone, it cites an AP poll. And again, AP is not some far right-leaning polling, AP, NORC poll. Republicans versus Democrats on the issues. The economy, Republicans are doing okay. R+5. Immigration, R+4. Cost of living is a push. It's even. Here's the problem we're having. Healthcare, Democrats have a +12 advantage. How the hell are we losing the healthcare debate? I don't understand this. To the Democrats who watch my show and hate my guts, I know you do. We don't like each other. You're welcome here too. Whatevs, do your thing. How are we losing the healthcare debate? Forgive me for the Republicans who are watching my show, which is the majority of my audience. This is not for you. Don't tune out, but this is for the Democrats and the media people. How are the Democrats leading on healthcare when the program you all claim to love and adore, Obamacare, failed so badly at controlling costs that you had to shut down the government because the costs exploded so much you needed more taxpayer money to subsidize the explosion in Obamacare programs? That's what happened. Stop bullshitting people. How are the Republicans losing on this issue? I don't like this Republican infighting and all this stuff, but I got to tell you, I don't understand this. How are we not messaging this better? Obamacare failed so badly, the Democrats actually shut down the government over it because they needed more money to pay for the out-of-control spending in Obamacare that they said was going to lead to lower costs. How are we losing this issue? The answer is, I'll give it to you. Where am I going with this? Anyone know? Tie the show together. Tie it all together. Josh, any guesses? Apple News. The Apple News problem. The Democrats aren't reading any conservative media outlets. The conservative media outlets that honestly and accurately reported that Obamacare is an abject total failure, so much so that Democrats need pots of more money from the taxpayers to pay for it when its original claim was it was going to reduce the cost of care. That's the facts, Jack. If Obamacare was doing so great, why'd you have to shut down the government over it? And we're losing on healthcare? That's because of the Apple News problem. Amazing, even given the Apple News problem, that we're still ahead on the economy. Amazing, that's even the case. You know how good the economy has to be doing right now, all things considered, for us to be up +5, considering every single story shitting on the Trump administration and ignoring all the good stuff, including today's inflation number coming in lower than expected? I guess it's all, by the way, because Donald Trump's like a fascist or a monarch or a king or something like that. No kings, remember? He's a Nazi fascist. Every single bullshit rhetorical trick they use. Here's an interesting interview. Did you guys see this yesterday? If you did, forgive me, but if you didn't, you're in for a little bit of a treat. Here's Caitlin Collins from CNN talking about, this fascist monarch, Donald Trump, and all that. Actually, I'm just messing with you. It's none of that at all. Caitlin Collins from CNN, can we all agree, does not like President Trump at all? Caroline Leavitt or anyone else? This is one of your people, Democrats. One of your people, a liberal opinion commentator. Here she is talking about the fascist monarch Donald Trump and how they treat the press. Oh, this is awful. Is it? Check this out.
They came up and they said, okay, well, you can't come into the next event, which was like 2 minutes later. And I was like, that's not how this works. I go into the U.S. press and they were like, well, you're not coming in. And I could see them like whispering and pointing about me. And some of the younger White House staff that are with the press weren't really sure what to do. And they went to Caroline. And to her credit, she said, no, Caitlin's coming in with the rest of the U.S. press. And we went in. And so it didn't become this huge issue because obviously if I had not been allowed in, this is something that has happened with the North Koreans when the president visited the DMZ and Sarah Huckabee Sanders was the press secretary. And so to her credit, she without a doubt was like, no, you're coming in. Right. Which I do think is important in that moment, especially when you're kind of the U.S. contingent abroad.
Listen, I want to be fair on this show. I mean, we use a bit of humor. I always just say edutainment, like the Boogie Down Productions album, educational entertainment. I don't want to bore you for 2 hours. I want to keep you entertained while we all learn something together. But what's fair is fair. I don't like Caitlin Collins. She doesn't like me. That's fine. I mean, she most assuredly doesn't like President Trump or Caroline Leavitt, but it's good to hear that take. She's talking about Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Caroline Leavitt defending the right to a free press overseas. Doesn't sound like a freaking fascist to me. She asks a hostile question, which she's allowed to do. She's allowed to do that. Freedom of the press matters. And you've got Caroline coming in there saying, no, she's allowed to ask that question. She comes in here. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders and, what was that? I'm not sure that was Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I think it was someone else actually in North Korea. I remember that clip. We used it. Was it Stephanie, that lady? It doesn't matter. The point is, across 45 and 47, 2 Trump administrations, the fascist president seems eager to take questions from a hostile press. He's done 500 press avails. Does that sound like a monarch or a fascist to you? Or maybe you're just full of shit. We'll take a break in a second and we'll get to Congressman Brandon Gill. But folks, you may hate me for this. You can flame it in the chat if you want. I'm open to it. I'm sorry, but I can't watch the Olympics anymore. Guy, Justin, have you watched it all? No, I can't do it. I swear to you, it's not from a lack of interest. Growing up, you remember you'd watch the Christy Yamaguchi and the figure skating, and it was like Go USA, you had the Miracle on Ice. Shaun White. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting stuff. It's not from a lack of interest. I can't. I don't know. Maybe I'm the bad guy here. I love this country more than anything. I just Josh, you watch any of the Olympics? You just walked out. No, okay, we're 0 for 4 here. I just can't understand if you choose to rock the U.S. colors, why you can't just go and unify the country and say, hey, guys, politics aside, no, I'm here to perform snowboarding, speed skating. I'm not here to comment on ICE issues. No pun intended. Immigration, obviously, not ICE. I'm not here to comment on that. It's not my area of expertise. I'm here to represent my country, Democrats, Republicans, whatever you are. I don't understand, why we need Olympians saying stupid shit all the time. Not all of them. Some of them have been great. Nobody cares about your political opinions. People care about my political opinions because it's a political commentary show. If it was a sports show doing an ice hockey thing, I'm not going to get into what's happening with the New York City situation with the legalization of marijuana. That's not what the show's about. The show with the Olympics is about a unifying effort through sports to represent your country. Here is a little quick video montage, again, of Olympians ruining shit, and they gotta talk shit all the time. Some, not all. Check this out.
I feel heartbroken about what's happened in the United States when, I'm pretty sure you're referencing ICE and some of the protests and things like that.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel like I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S.
What's happening in Minnesota is wrong. There's no shades of gray. It's clear.
It's been a hard time for the community overall under this administration, try and fight for our human rights. And now, especially, it's not just affecting the queer community, but many other communities.
Can you just play the sport, man? Justin said one of those guys, a curler, not like barbell curls, like, curling. Great. It looks like fantastic, whatever. Just go curl, bro. But just do us one favor. Guy will get this. He's a CrossFitter. Never curl in the squat rack. Right, Guy? That is heresy. Obviously, two different things, but you get the point. The curl alert. Nobody. Just play the sport. Lovely. Paula just walked in. Hello, Miss Paula. Good to see you. She's back. Company president. Taking over. Everybody's like on their game now. So Josh, just tighten up. Be careful. The law's in. Paula, the law's in town. The law. Josh just stiffened right up. Everybody's like on it now. All right, last break in Congressman Brandon Gill. This guy is a rock star. He's been doing great work. We like to highlight up-and-coming politicians. And, we don't lionize anyone on the show, but people are doing good work. Great. Let's get the report card together. Hey, while everyone was focused on the halftime show, one of the largest U.S. military buildups in decades has been going on in the Middle East. I've warned you over and over about pending national security crises everywhere. Space, hypersonics, the attack on industrial control systems we might have in this country, the threat to the grid. These are all very real. Again, there's no reason to panic, but there is substantial reasons, more than one, to be prepared. Folks, unfortunately, in a world full of fallible people, things happen. Bad things happen all the time. Floods, hurricanes, wars. The Russian invasion in Ukraine surprised a lot of people. Be prepared. I need you to be prepared today and use the company I use. When you're prepared, you can reduce your anxiety level. And I don't want you to panic, but I'd like you to head over to preparewithdan.com. They've been with me for a long time. Our friends at My Patriot Supply, they have a complete preparedness package just for you. They put it all together for you. The legwork's already done. It has backup power, survival food, water filtration, and more, all in one bundle with over $800 in free gear. Put your mind at ease. Pick up the package today. They've already done the legwork for you. They're calling it the Mount Rushmore of preparedness, and it won't be around for long. Go today. This is a great company, Patriot Supply. We love them. My Patriot Supply has been a fantastic supporter of the show. The website is Prepare with Dan, my first name, preparewithdan.com. Preparewithdan.com. Go there today to preparewithdan.com. What an absolute pleasure to welcome to the show a rising star, to say the least, up in Congress. He never screams or yells. He just surgically eviscerates stupid liberal talking points up on Capitol Hill. Texas 26 Congressional Representative Brandon Gill. Brandon, it's an honor to have you. Thanks for everything you've been doing up there.
Dan, it's good to be here.
So let's get right to it. I know, again, you're busy like everyone else up there. There was a report yesterday in the Wall Street Journal about an area of concern during my time over the past year, really kind of, lit my candle. It's this growing drone threat. We saw it with Spiderweb, the Russia-Ukraine war. This is a huge threat. There was a NATO exercise I covered earlier in the show. They did a NATO exercise about drones. It did not end well. We basically got wiped out. It was ugly. Up on the Hill, is there a sense of urgency about this problem? I've worked with members like you and others, but I don't really hear this big outcry like, hey, guys, this is a serious problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a growing awareness that the way war is conducted is shifting pretty rapidly, especially over the past 5 years or so. And the goal for military procurement in the United States and for military readiness should be to be able to fight the war that we could be fighting 5 or 10 years from now, and that's going to include, of course, drone warfare. It's something we saw that we've been seeing in Ukraine and Russia for quite some time now. So I think that there's definitely an awareness and a knowledge that this is something that we've got to get a lot more on top of. Just broadly speaking.
I know Secretary Hegseth is all over it and has been working with members to procure money on it. So, like I said, this terrifies me, and it keeps me up. And listen, I sleep no matter what. I'm just telling you, this is the kind of thing that really bothers the hell out of me. Something you have been working on just daily. I've seen a litany of social media posts. I've seen you speaking out loudly about this absurd, outrageous, potentially nation-destroying fraud if we go bankrupt going on in Minnesota. You have been all over this story. I know at the FBI, we had closing in on over 200 arrests. The investigation's ongoing. The DOJ has sent special teams of U.S. attorneys out there. But I think we have to be candid about this. And I know you've been on this. Without legislative support to cut these programs off, we're Charlie Brown kicking the football, Congressman. I mean, if the money's going to flow out by the trillions, the FBI only has 12,000 agents. How many people are you going to task to go find $1 trillion in fraud?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, the fraud that we've seen just in Minnesota, just use that as an example, I think that's really just the tip of the iceberg. You likely have similar scale, if not bigger, in California and Ohio and other states, particularly where you have large Somali communities that's closely related to what we saw in Minnesota. But the problem is twofold. One is that we've had open borders for 4 years under Joe Biden, letting in millions of people completely unvetted. But you add on top of that a large number of asylum claimants who have come into the United States, like these Somali immigrants. You put that on top of the fact that you've got a welfare state that has very little vetting, very little controls to make sure that money is actually going to the people that it should be going to. So you've got programs that are administered by states that are funded by the federal government, where the states have very little incentive to ensure that these aren't being fraudulently run. And the loser in all of this is the American taxpayer, who's seeing billions and billions and billions of dollars just being stolen from us. With very little accountability. So you're exactly right. We need a legislative solution, and it's going to have to combine immigration enforcement and immigration reform. And by reform, I mean reducing immigration with, on the other hand, a complete restructuring, I think, of the welfare state.
We're talking to Congressman Brandon Gill, if you're listening on audio, represents Texas District 26. Congressman, it was Milton Friedman who said you can't have open borders and a welfare state. I would prefer neither. I know you would too. We don't want to, but if we're absolutely stuck because it's not a monarchy and we've got to deal with liberal Democrats who will spend every freaking dime they get in and then borrow 10 more, I would rather at least shut the border down if we're stuck with this welfare state. So and it's just kind of harping on what you just said. At least we would stem the tide of people that use that as a magnet to come here for freebies on the working U.S. taxpayer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, the American taxpayer and American citizens are the ones who lose. We used to have a few certain principles in American immigration policy that were followed. And one of them is called the public burden doctrine. And it just says you cannot immigrate into the United States and be a public burden. In other words, if you're going to come in here, we need to know that you can be self-sufficient. You're not going to cross our borders, immigrate into the United States, and then have American citizens pay for your food and your housing and your medical care and all kinds of other welfare programs. That simply doesn't work. To your point, as Milton Friedman pointed out, you can't have both a welfare state and open borders. And I agree with you, we shouldn't have both. So that's the first principle. The second principle, I think, is one of cultural assimilation. And that's something that we used to follow for many years in the United States, which is that if you come into the United States, you are expected to adopt our culture, our customs, our way of life, all of the things that make America the envy of the world, all of the things which I think are the foundation of why so many people want to move into the United States from so many other countries. And we found with the Somali population in particular, that even after being in the United States for 10 years or longer, Somali immigrants in Minnesota, only about half of them speak English very well. And I think that English proficiency is a pretty good proxy for cultural assimilation. So we're finding that that these people are not assimilating. And if you have people who are coming into the United States, we're paying for their welfare, and they're not assimilating, and by the way, they commit crimes at higher rates than American citizens do, I think that makes a compelling case to say, listen, the purpose of our immigration system is to benefit our people. This doesn't benefit our people. Therefore, we shouldn't allow mass migration from Somalia.
Congressman, also, the points you just made are not in any way controversial to a logical, reasonable actor in this debate. There's nothing you said there even remotely controversial. I think you'd make the case yourself too. It's not even groundbreaking. Hey, we should speak English. Why? Because that's how people freaking communicate. This isn't hard. And when you look at the data, longitudinally over time about what the genesis of large outbreaks of terrorism and pockets of poverty are, you see a couple of things. Linguistic fractionalization, the presence of jungle and mountain type environments where people sometimes get segregated. That's more on the poverty side. They get segregated and they don't get to be in that incubator of ideas. This is data. This is actual observational science over time. Yet when you look at the liberal Democrat approach, which you just roundly refuted, hey, speak whatever language you want. Your culture is great. Make sure you stay in these pockets of people and never assimilate with any others. You're just basically putting this in a witch's brew of poverty, where the guaranteed stew that comes out of it is going to make you poor and potentially lead to a national security problem later on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What this sort of multicultural utopian nonsense that the left pushes really means is just the balkanization of America. We are one nation under God, which means we have one culture, one heritage, a common conception of what our history was like, a common vision for what our future should be. And the only way that you can have that, the only way you can have a coherent culture is through assimilation. And the most basic part of that, as you mentioned, is being able to communicate with each other. If I can't talk to you, it's very, very difficult for us to have really a sort of a common vision together as to what life should be like in the United States. So that's what we're going for. And again, that's something that we've adhered to for a long time in American immigration policy. And we've moved away from that recently. But we want to have a country that is coherent, that is strong. And again, balkanization does not make us stronger. Allowing in millions of people and allowing them to form, distinct enclaves all over the country where they speak their own language, where they adhere to their own social system that's separate from the rest of the country, definitively weakens America on so many different levels.
Congressman, I put up earlier in the show some polling where Republicans are ahead. And by the way, it was a liberal polling outlet. I'm not questioning the numbers. I'm just saying there's obviously not a partisan slant in our conservative direction. And it had Republicans ahead by a lot on a lot of key issues. They're still getting hammered on healthcare, which I believe is BS. We are the only ones trying to get Obamacare raised the cost of healthcare so much they shut down the government because they needed more taxpayer money to fund this abomination of a program. But you see it up on the screen there. The economy, Republicans +5. Immigration, Republicans +4. Obviously getting hurt a little bit on healthcare. It's AP, so it's not, again, a conservative polling outlet. What's the feeling up on Capitol Hill? I know the doom and gloom in the media. I heard it, but the inflation numbers just came out right before this interview. They came out lower. Yes, lower than expected. I played a clip early in the show of you and AG Bondi. Violent crime rates at an all-time unprecedented low. The murder rate at an all-time low. We've got respect back overseas, maybe not the approval of the EU, which I don't care about, but you see NATO spending going up. I mean, this has really been a golden age of politics for both the MAGA movement and conservatism. So I really don't. I genuinely don't understand the doom and gloom out there. All we got to do is get better at the messaging. The results are there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that Republicans recognize we're the party of law and order. What we saw under Joe Biden was completely lawless chaos at the border, and it's overturned, completely transformed communities across the country, like what you see in Minneapolis is just one of many examples. What we want to do is preserve the America that we know and love. So when it comes to immigration enforcement, I think that most Republicans recognize that this is not an issue that we can back down from. This was the biggest issue of the past election cycle. And I think that that's why we're still polling well with that, is that the American people want a border that's enforced. They want deportations. They want criminals out of our country. And frankly, most Americans want every single illegal alien who came across the border under Joe Biden's 4 years out of our country and deported. I certainly do. Because Americans want to live in a country that is America, that hasn't been transformed. But we also recognize that there are political implications of this as well. That the policy of open borders was specifically to impact congressional apportionment. In other words, whenever the census goes out every 10 years and decides how many congressmen each state is allotted, it's based on the number of people in a state. So whenever you have blue states who are sanctuary states or sanctuary cities, that are bringing in millions of illegal aliens, they get benefits by getting more congressional representation than red states. I mean, it is like a way of systematically rigging our elections in favor of the Democrats. And I think that's
I'm sorry for the sound effects in the background. I just thank God you get this problem, and I am not using the Lord's name in vain. We need advocates like you to be talking about this, folks. The open border immigration policy, as Congressman Brandon Gill just articulately stated, I promise you has nothing to do with compassion. Congressman, I'll make you a bet. If you, not that anyone would do this, but if some Republican tomorrow put out a bill and said, we'll allow every single illegal immigrant to come into the country forever. Here's a couple of things, though. They can't get benefits and they'll never be able to vote. The Democrats would be like, I will never. I already thought it was about compassion. You wanted people to come here, right? They are full of, you get what's in a baby's diaper. They're full of it. This is all about the House of Representatives being roughly 700,000 people per district. People are evacuating blue states because they stink to move to your state in Texas, which is getting more representatives, which affects the Electoral College, not just the House, and the presidential election too. That's all this is about, is backfilling the empty gas tank they have as people evacuate their blue states. I'm so glad you see this problem.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And, if it weren't for illegal immigration, Republicans would have several more seats in Congress right now. And just imagine what that difference is going to be in 2030 which is after the, 4 years of open borders under Joe Biden. And in the meantime, Democrats are making the bet, and this is why they're so opposed to the Save America Act, that we've got unsecure elections that in so many blue states and even in some, more purple states, you don't even have to show an ID to vote. So if you've got millions of people in here and you've got presidential elections who can be swayed by just a few thousand votes in key districts and key swing states, that illegal alien population can have a significant, even short-term impact on our election system by allowing those people to vote, which they do. Whenever you don't have voter ID laws, whenever you don't have real checks on our election system, you're essentially allowing illegal aliens to vote if they want to break the law. So that's the other sort of component to this. And of course, long term, you hear Democrats talking about amnesty for illegal aliens. And the goal there is so that they can vote and so that Democrats can say, well, we'll give you amnesty and in exchange, you vote for us perpetually. We'll see if that's a play that actually works. But that is the game plan. And, this is something this is not a right-wing conspiracy theory.
No.
Democrats have been talking about this for decades now. You hear them all the time. Demographic changes benefit Democrats at the expense of Republicans. I mean, the sort of the political Bible that Democrats have followed is a book called The Emerging Democratic Majority. It was written in the early 2000s. And the thesis of the book is that demographic changes will create, as the title implies, a new Democratic majority for several decades. I mean, this is in their words. I mean, they're the ones who talk about all of this, but I think we need to hear them. And whenever they say something, actually believe it and recognize what the plan is.
I want to say also, I'm really just elated that you brought that up too. We used to play before I left for government service over and over. And what was it, Guy? Like a 2-minute montage of Democrats talking about exactly what you just said. Demographic destiny. There was a headline, Congressman, in the New York Times. We can replace them. And then when you say, hey guys, what are you talking about this replacement theory? They go, you're a racist. I'm just quoting you idiots. That's not us talking about it. It's you. We used to play this montage, and all the goofballs in Media Matters, they would never cover it because it was their words talking about it. Last question for you. I sincerely appreciate your time. You're a real rising star up there, and it's great to have people like yourself having given us all a voice. The filibuster. I know you're on the House side, it's the Senate. I understand. Obviously, the audience does as well. However, you're a representative in a prominent state. I had Senator Tommy Tuberville on yesterday. Here's my take. I'm open to a good, back and forth on it. The Democrats are going to wipe the filibuster out anyway. They've talked about it. Manchin's gone. Sinema's gone. They were the really only objectors. It's going to happen. If we could get rid of the filibuster, we could get the SAVE Act through. We could make permanent, more substantial tax cuts. We could do a ton of things, border security, all kinds of things on the national security front. But there's a variety of different opinions. I think Mike Lee feels a little differently about it on the speaking filibuster side, but everybody's got an approach. Again, I know you're on the House side, but your general thoughts on that.
Well, the founding fathers intended the Senate to be the deliberative body, the body that would take bills from the House and debate them extensively and make sure that, what they're actually doing conforms to the Constitution and is good for the American people. So what I'd like to see the Senate do is actually debate bills. So have a real filibuster. Right now, the way the filibuster works with that 60-vote threshold that's needed for cloture and cloture means ending debate. And that's what allows the Senate to vote on an actual bill, the actual content of the piece of legislation. But right now, all senators have to do is threaten to go to the House floor and filibuster, or to the Senate floor, and filibuster. Threaten to say, I'm going to speak for 24 hours or whatever to stop a bill from coming to a vote. I say if they're going to threaten to do it, make them actually do it. Go to the Senate floor, for instance, on the Save America Act, and explain to the American people for days or weeks on end why voter ID laws are bad. Let them make that case, because that's an argument that we will win, by the way. The American people are with us. But I think that same principle applies for any bill. If you actually want to hold up legislation, then explain it to the American people. Do a real filibuster, the way the Senate, I think, is supposed to operate. And if that happens, we would be able to get the Save America Act through. The Democrats may filibuster. They'll do it for a few days, but eventually, there's only so long you can stand on the Senate floor and speak nonstop, which is how the rules work. And we would be able to get that legislation through. But I think that's how the Senate should operate. If you want to be the deliberative body, then actually deliberate things.
Yeah. That might be an interesting take. Reagan always said, take 80%, come back for the other 20 later. Maybe that's the compromise. It's a fascinating take. Again, I understand you're on the House side, but your voice, matters in this debate. I'm not on either side anymore. So on the outside, it's just my opinion. I just think they're going to wipe it out anyway. We're going to be in a lot of trouble. But Congressman, you've been doing amazing work on this tragic fraud scenario, Minnesota, as you mentioned, all over the country, not just in Minnesota. I really appreciate it. You're one of our first guests, and we picked them for a reason. We wanted really good conservative voices. Best of luck to you in your re-election effort. I think you're going to be A-OK. But if you want to support him, folks, look him up. Brandon, BRANDONGILL, Brandon Gill, Texas 26. Check him out. Congressman, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be with you.
You got it. Great guy. I've known the congressman, open and transparent for a while. And I'm telling you, he is, absent the congressional work he's been doing, an extremely upstanding and high character individual. I personally can vouch for. He's just an amazing guy. So go check him out, give him a follow. And like I said, I'm a little bit more of a yeller and a screamer. Something I'm trying, been working on it for 51 years. He just surgically eviscerates liberal stupidity all the time. And it is just a pleasure to watch. And you can see he's very intellectual when it comes to making the arguments for these cases. Folks, another amazing week. Tens of millions of views on Rumble. Again, audio podcasts on Apple and Spotify have been going crazy. I just so deeply appreciate it. When you come back after a year away, you're never sure how it's going to go. It's been a while. People find new shows. They unsubscribe to things. It has far, far surpassed our expectations. Thanks to you. Not us, you. It's been 2 weeks of shows. It's just gone absolutely bananas for us. We can't thank you enough. Make sure you subscribe to the show at rumble.com/Bongino. We would really appreciate it. Just go to Rumble, Rumble like a fight, rumble.com/Bongino. Click that subscribe button. It is absolutely free. You'll get notifications when the show goes live at 10 a.m. Eastern time. If you can't watch it live, no problem. Right afterwards, you can watch it on demand at rumble.com/Bongino anytime. And of course, you can listen on Apple and Spotify in your car and wherever you get your audio podcast. Give us a follow there too. Make sure to check out Haley Karania. Coming up next, rumble.com/Haley. And Vince is on rumble.com/Vince every day at 8 a.m. He's been doing fantastic numbers as well as Haley. Proud to have him as part of the Bongino Silverlock family. Thanks so much, folks. Week 2 in the books. So much going on. I will see you back here on Monday.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Karania.
Host of Vince.
Host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here.
Right here on the Bongino Report channel.
Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays. And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be
right
here
and
anywhere you find a podcast. Thanks for watching.